Hi, I'm Mike with House on the Mend, and after our last episode in the series where we laid down all the flooring in the bedrooms, it's now time to install the baseboards. So let's get started.
If you break it, he will fix it. If you buy it, he will build it. House on the Mend.
So I've already finished 2 of the bedrooms, and as you can see here, there's inside corners, outside corners, corners that aren't 90 degrees, a lot of variety in this house. So let's go to the 3rd bedroom that has all those same challenges and get started. Now here's the baseboard I chose for our project. As you can see, it's a pretty simple design, not ornate, which is going to match the very simple door casing in this house. It's also 1.25 inches taller than the original baseboard, so there won't be any issues with the original line of caulk or paint that scars the wall showing up. Tools you're going to need for this project: a miter saw. I really love these contractor stands that are very mobile and portable. Of course, eye protection and hearing protection. I like having some pliers on hand in case you need to pull out one of the old nails from the previous baseboard. A scraping tool to scrape off the previous caulk or paint so that you get a good mate with the baseboard against the wall. Of course, you'll need a tape measure and a pencil, and a nice item to have that I'll talk more about later is a gauge like this for helping you find the outer and inner angles of the wall. I really recommend a nail gun rather than a box of nails and a hammer. It's going to save you so much time. I'm using a 16 gauge nailer, which works great for me. I really like these battery operated nail guns. I used to have the one that worked off the air compressor with the hose. Nothing against those, they work great. But you're forever moving the hose around, untangling it, relocating the air compressor, where this gives you so much more freedom. Not required, but nice to have, is a coping saw. This happens to be an electric jigsaw with a coping saw attachment. You can also use a hand coping saw, more about that later. A hammer and a nail set for driving home any stray nails that don't seat all the way. Some spackling to fill those nail holes. And then I like to put a small bead of caulk along the top of the baseboard when I'm done, because there's some areas that no matter how hard you press in and nail, there's imperfections in the wall and you're still going to see a slight gap. So I like to fill those with the caulk. So for years, I struggled with inside 90-degree corners when installing baseboard. I was never happy with it. And the problem is you've got 2 pieces of sheetrock. They're joined together with joint tape in these corners and joint compound. And you get a slight rounding here, so you're forever chasing the right measurement on the baseboard. And then the walls aren't necessarily plumb nor perfectly square, and you almost invariably come up with situations like this where when you put the pieces together and nail them in place, you get a gap, a nasty gap that you're trying to fill with spackle or caulking. And there is a much better way that I learned from a pro tip video, link right up here. Let me show you the much better pro way of doing this. You're gonna love it. First is just measure out a piece the length of the wall, 2 straight cuts, simple. So here's where the magic happens. All right, so a regular straight cut side of baseboard would be really hard to follow the cope. So instead, what you do is you take the end that's going to butt up to the straight piece we just installed. You cut a 45-degree angle this way, which reveals the cope perfectly. Now we can take a coping saw and we can follow the white paint line, and that will perfectly match up with the other side. Now once you've made that 45-degree cut, instead of using the coping saw to go all the way down this line, let's use the very accurate miter saw. Watch this. You cut right up the edge of the straight run, So it looks like this. So you can use a hand coping saw. I much prefer this coping foot that's an attachment to a jigsaw. It's made by Collins Tool Company, and I'll leave a link for it. Nice. Now set up that corner that we just coped on the other side. Mark this side. Cut it. And install it. So at the same time that I'm pushing against the baseboard, I'm also pushing it down to minimize any gaps between the baseboard and the flooring. Unfortunately, that trick doesn't work on a wall that has a wider angle like this, but here's how I work through that. When it comes to finding an angle like this one that's obviously not 90 degrees, a measuring tool such as this awesome Saker aluminum miter saw protractor comes in really handy. So you've got two flat sides here, and you can rest them against the wall to find out what this angle is. But I would caution you not to just go straight into the wall. Instead, for a more accurate reading, get a couple scrap pieces, set them in place, and then you can get a truly proper, accurate reading. Now in this case, it is 22.5 degrees on either side. And as you see here, that makes for a nice joint. Of course, the same is true for an outside angle like this. The tool can simply be adjusted to get that measurement. Here we have an outside corner. So I've cut this piece a little long, and now I'm just going to rest my pencil right up where it comes in contact with the wall. And go make the miter cut. There we go. Now this wall here is kind of warped down at the bottom, so if I just drive nails in, I'm afraid we're going to get some pull away like this. So I'm going to glue this corner, and I'll drive some nails in the upper area once that glue dries. This little bit of area here that could go into the wall is too small for a nail, and I'd also worry that the metal corner here would just give way, so let's glue this little piece. Now here in the master bedroom, we've come up with a very common situation, which is we have a wall that is longer than a single piece of baseboard, 12 feet in our circumstances. So when it comes time to join two pieces together, I like to make that joint an angled cut rather than a square cut. It makes it much easier to conceal this joint with spackling. You have changes in temperature and humidity on the wall and on the baseboard, and that can cause expansion and contraction, and an angled cut will do a much better job of concealing that. So on occasion the nail will fail to fully seat. I like to take the hammer by itself first to get the nail flush, and then finish it up with a couple whacks from the nail set. And I like to make sure that that nail is set in enough that the spackling has some backing to it. I like this spackling and nail hole filler by DAP because it goes on pink but it dries white. So if you're doing a same day sand and paint, you'll know when you're ready to go. All right, only 400 more to go. Well, while we're working on baseboard, it's a perfect time to also take care of the transition pieces. These are the pieces that go in between the flooring and any existing flooring, such as this tile. And if you look right here, if we butt this up against the door frame, you can see that the door casing rounds out and leaves quite an unsightly gap right there. So we're going to need to scribe around this transition piece and cut it in this same shape, so that we can fill in that gap. And to do that, I am really happy to say Saker sent me this multi-function scribing tool. It's basically like a compass, but it's got all sorts of ways of adjusting it. It's almost infinitely adjustable. Pretty neat. I'll leave a link for it. So I know that from this edge to here, I measured it, is a 1/2 inch. So I set my scribe tool at a 1/2 inch and I just rest it right up against the threshold. And as you can see right there, I came out like this and I drew the scribe line. And now I can take that to the jigsaw and we can cut it out. Oh man, that's nice. Well, nothing says a flooring job is complete like a nice quality baseboard install. Just finishes off the room so well. And when you consider this bland baseboard is what was installed before, I think this is a nice updated touch. Now, masking off the flooring before painting with tape and paper might have seemed a bit extreme, but the thought of going around painting and having a drip fall down on this brand new flooring would just crush me. So I took the extra step. But don't worry, it's not gonna go to waste. We have a fire pit out in the backyard as well as a fireplace in the house. And with all the firewood I've cut, with all the chainsaw reviews I've been doing lately, we're gonna have plenty to keep us warm in the coming fall and winter. Now, if you found this video helpful, will you please give it a thumbs up? It really helps the algorithms to start suggesting it to more viewers like you. Also, please consider subscribing. I'm working really hard to put out good quality content, and there's many more videos to come. Now, I'm going to leave a link to all the tools that I use for this baseboard install. Full disclosure, most, if not all of those, are going to be Amazon affiliate links. So if you click on them and end up making a purchase, it won't cost you a thing, but I do get a small reward at the end of the month. It helps to justify all the extra time and effort it takes to set up the camera and the lighting and everything for these videos. And thank you for all of you that have been doing that. I've been looking through some of the analytics on the Amazon affiliate website, and you guys are great. I really appreciate it. Now, once the glue dries on all the transition pieces, we're going to be ready to hang the bedroom doors as well as the closet doors. Until then, thank you for watching. Am I fascinating on the ground? Can you not handle me being on the ground?